This father has been trapped in jail for 12 years. 12 years. He stole a mobile phone. And what he's done now, because his sentence could go on forever, stealing a mobile phone, he has schizophrenia.
Yeah.
He set himself alight. He's Thomas White, he's 40, he's been rushed to hospital. He had previous convictions for theft. He was handed one of these swear word IPP sentences with a 2-year tariff for robbery. But it was just before those sentences were outlawed. So he gets 2 years, a 2-year tariff, 12 years later, with schizophrenia and everything else. He is still in jail and may never be let out for 12 years for stealing a mobile phone with mental illness.
Well, Trisha,
it just makes me so angry.
The sweeping up of human souls under the IPP carpet, it's a disgrace. We've talked about it before. It's actually a stain on a hardly spotless justice system, and we can't blame 15 years of the Tories, because they were brought in under Labour. Great swathes of criminal legislation came in under especially the Blair years. We ended up really in a situation where if you that kind of toxic combination of those indeterminate sentences, where you can go in for something just for a 2-year sentence but not be allowed to be released unless you can show that you've rehabilitated yourself, and on the more recent phenomenon of cutting funding in prisons, turning prisons into cages full of diseased rats. There's no nice way of talking about it, is there? And that combination, you don't have the courses anymore. So these people are in this dystopian circular existence where they can't get out, but they go in often ill, because we know there's a correlation between mental illness and the risk of being involved and being a perpetrator of violent crime at any level. But they get worse, they get worse, they get worse. And this is the society we are. And that's because we see these headlines, and we talked about it last week. We consistently think the justice system is soft because that's what we're fed in the media. And in fact, most people, more than 75% of people, think that sentencing isn't harsh enough. But consistently, we also underestimate the length of sentences.
Let's tell people as well, right? He had been, this guy stealing a mobile phone, been moved to 12 different prisons. So he's been in prison 12 years for a 2-year tariff. He wasn't allowed to see his son ever. His son's now 14. Interestingly, the reunion, he's finally allowed to see his son. It was arranged after an intervention by David Blunkett, who he was the architect of these IPP sentences. Now, listen, David Blunkett brought it in. He has admitted he regrets coming up with a whole idea under New Labour in 2005. He feels badly about it. But how many people are there locked up for 1 year or 2 year and are in there for stealing mobile phones? So people who complain sentences aren't long enough, we don't look at the sentences that are abhorrently wrong and stupid and awful. 3,000 prisoners like that. 3,000.
Yeah, and you know, Trisha, anyone who pontificates about short sentences, you go down to a category B prison, you spend 1 night on the remand wing, you will change your tune in a heartbeat. People use phrases like Sky TV and Butlins as if that's the experience. No, it's violence. It's people in your cell self-harming in front of you. It's being permanently caked in your own dead skin because you don't get to go to the shower often enough, and it's being banged up 23.5 hours a day with somebody who in all likelihood himself has mental health problems and may be violent. But forget all that. most of the people pointing the finger, judging, saying, oh, this is all soft, this doesn't work, blah, 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 because they just believe it as it's served up to them like fast food in the tabloids, that the justice system is soft. As soon as they heard, and I'm sorry to be judgmental, but I have to say I'm sick of having to have this conversation. As soon as they heard the prison door slam on their first night inside, they turned to absolute jelly.